I work at the American Cancer Society and specifically work in making strides against breast cancer. And so I manage the Strides team in New York and New Jersey. And our walk here, we have one in Albion, New York, in Buffalo, and in Jamestown.
The number one call we get into our call center is about breast cancer. And so that's why we have Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, a cancer-specific event.
We're getting there. I really feel that we're at a tipping point, and that's why it's so important for people who are passionate about the fight to end breast cancer to kind of unite and do something about it.
Because this is my life, and one thing that I have to always work towards is that it's very easy for me to say with a very straight face that I lost my mom to breast cancer when I was 15. And it's so much more to that, and there's so much pain and heartache around that.
That kind of was my main driver for kind of carrying the torch on and making sure that I did what I could in memory of her as we did what we could to also kind of protect ourselves and my family, because I knew that there was a chance that it could run in the family, whether it was in our genes or not. When I got my results back in March, I turned the page to the second piece of paper and it said daughter to be tested at 18. And it was that moment that it's like, oh, this isn't just me. Now there's a 50% chance it could be passed on to my children.
Right.
I have the BRCA1, mutation, and what that means is it's the way you look at it is really an 80,000 letter word, and mine has a specific misspelling. And so that misspelling speaks to whatever my risk factors are. So one woman who has BRCA1 could have completely different risk factors because she has a different delineation, a different mutation. And so mine specifically was 87% increase to breast cancer. When I first found out that I had it, I said, okay, my first hurdle here is going to be talking my husband and father into me getting a double mastectomy, because I probably think that they're going to think I'm a little radically aggressive. But to my surprise, everyone was on the same page. But it was interesting. My dad had posed the question to one of the doctors of, how long do you think she needs to wait? She's 37 and we just found this out. And he said, well, how long do you wait before you put insurance on your car after buying it? And so that was kind of like, okay, we're going to make this happen. We're going to do this. And it's the first appointment to kind of assess if you are a candidate to get the testing. So if you've had family history, and to also kind of make sure you're mentally able to kind of process the news if you were to get it, to make some counseling. And then the second appointment is the test, and it literally was mouthwash. I swished my mouth and spit into a little container,
okay,
and a test tube of sorts. And then the third appointment is about 2.5 weeks later, where they give you the results.
My first step was really getting my dad and husband on board for me to have the surgery. And then the next step was, okay, how are we going to pay for this?
Mm-hmm.
And I called my genetic counselor here locally, and she said, state of New York, it's a law that if you have this and you get the surgery, that insurance companies have to pay.
I talk about this so matter of fact that I don't want you to think that there's not tons of emotion that goes with it. I am now, months out from having this surgery, and I don't have pain on a daily basis, but it was a tough decision. It was a tough decision to have the testing. I drug my feet a little bit. I had a friend that really kind of pushed me, and it wasn't a fun surgery, to say the least, but it's what I needed to do to be around for my kids.
You want to have all the information that you possibly can to make the best decision. You think of when you buy a car, you don't just show up at one parking lot and purchase the first car that you see because the guy says that it's got great gas mileage and it's family friendly. You do your due diligence before you even step onto that lot, and then you check all these different lots. So your health is so much more valuable than a vehicle. So you have to be your own health advocate. You know, we have our 800 number, 800-227-2345. It's 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You have a question at 3 a.m. about any type of cancer treatment, even just a definition of a word, and some direction of where to go if you have questions. You know, that's what we raise funds for, is so that we can provide that that high level support to people when they're facing really difficult, very challenging time in their life. I think that's one of the toughest things, to get all this information. It's like, oh my gosh, where do I even begin? And so no matter what health issue, you have to be responsible for your own health. You have to be your own health advocate, because this for some people can be a full-time job, and it's a very serious thing. My mom wrote kind of a letter as an insurance policy to guide me through all the stages in my life until I'm grown. And it's her wanting me to hear it from her, my mom, and not anybody else. And I think that that's the key, is that breast cancer absolutely comes through and wreaks havoc on people's lives. And we're getting better. The cancer death rates have gone down 30% since the 80s, and they continue to go in that direction. We're finding it earlier, so people are living with it.
And to me, the key is prevention and early detection. And we know already that 85% of cancers are preventable. That's, 1/3 of cancers are preventable. And so if we just practiced, the screenings and followed the guidelines, and, did what we could to prevent it, and then if it does happen, catch it early, it can literally be a hiccup in your life, as opposed to, something much, much greater.
You got to get fear out of the way and get to the other side of it, and just kind of push forward, because the alternative of staying in the dark, some people get lucky that way, but most people don't.